There comes a moment in every life where the mirror no longer lies, where the silence speaks louder than the noise, where you feel, in the marrow of your bones, that you were not born just to wake, work, and repeat. You were born to build, born to become, born to rise. But rise on what? This world is full of hollow ambition, shiny goals built on sand, loud declarations with no foundation beneath them. Everyone wants to grow, but few are willing to lay the pillars. Few are willing to pour the concrete of discipline and wait for it to harden into something that can carry the weight of greatness. So if you're here to truly resonate just in image, but in essence you must build yourself on pillars, not motivation, not momentum, pillars. Because when the storms come in, they will only, what's rooted in the eternal will remain. The first pillar is mindset. Because before you ever change your life, you must change your lens. You can't build a palace with a poverty perspective. You can't step into abundance thinking like a victim. You can't lead others if you can't even command your own thoughts. Mindset is not a mood, it's a muscle. You train it every time you catch yourself slipping into old stories. Every time you say no to excuses. Every time you look at chaos and choose composure. This world will throw everything at you. Doubt, distraction, delay. Your mind must be stronger than the external noise. And that means feeding it like a garden, pulling the weeds of worry, planting seeds of strategy, watering it with words that nourish instead of drain. Because if you don't control your mind, something else will. The second pillar is belief. Not the kind you wear on your lips, the kind that burns in your belly. Most people don't fail from lack of opportunity. They fail because their belief never matched their potential. They fail because they listened to people who gave up on their own dreams. They fail because they never got loud enough with their own inner truth. Belief is the bridge between the invisible and the inevitable. It is the inner contract that says, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how hard it gets. I am not leaving this arena until I have become who I came to be. And belief is not built in the spotlight, it's forged in the shadows. In the hours where no one claps, in the mornings where your body screams, stay, and your soul whispers, go. Every time you override comfort, your belief thickens like armor. You must believe, not in a perfect outcome, but in your capacity to outlast every excuse. Because when belief is strong, the path reveals itself. The third pillar is clarity. Clarity is the superpower of the uncommon. You cannot hit a target you can't see. You cannot rise to a standard you haven't defined. Most people don't lack time or energy, they lack direction. They chase noise instead of purpose. They wake up reactive instead of intentional. But clarity changes everything. Clarity slices through confusion like a blade. Clarity is the inner compass that keeps you focused when life tries to scatter you. When your vision is clear, your no gets stronger. Your schedule tightens. Your distractions lose their grip. Clarity doesn't mean you know every step, it means you've committed to the destination. And when you're clear on where you're going, the world starts to align. The right people appear. The right doors open. Because clarity doesn't attract chance, it attracts precision. So ask yourself, what do you really want? Not what you're supposed to want, not what looks good on Instagram. What do you want? Now cut everything that doesn't serve it. The fourth pillar is vision. Clarity shows you where you are. Vision shows you what's possible. Vision is not fantasy, it's fuel. It's what wakes you when the alarm fails. It's what pushes you through when motivation dies. It's what makes the pain worth it. And if your vision doesn't scare you a little, stretch you a lot, and ignite something deep in your chest, then it's not vision, it's maintenance. Vision must be big enough to demand a new version of you. It should not fit your current resources. It should not match your current level. It should call you higher. Vision whispers, you're more than this. Vision yells, you were made to disrupt, to innovate, to shake the ground you walk on. But vision requires solitude. It doesn't show up in the noise. You have to get quiet, you have to get still, you have to listen. Because when vision takes hold of your soul, comfort becomes irrelevant. The fifth pillar is purpose. Purpose is the difference between a life that's full and a life that's filled. Without purpose, success is just noise. Without purpose, money becomes shallow. Accomplishments feel hollow because the soul knows what the ego forgets. If it doesn't mean something, it won't last. Purpose is not found, it's chosen. It's forged in the fire of service. It's discovered when you ask, what pain have I lived through that now qualifies me to help others? Purpose is found when you stop trying to impress the world and start trying to impact it. And here's the truth most avoid. Your purpose will demand a price. It will cost you comfort, popularity, maybe even people you love. But what you gain is fire. What you gain is alignment. What you gain is the feeling of waking up and knowing, I am exactly where I'm meant to be. When your life is driven by purpose, your time gets more valuable. Your energy becomes sacred. Your no becomes holy. Because you are no longer just living. You are leading. Then, let us keep building. Because the foundation is being set and the structure of your future is beginning to rise. The sixth pillar is discipline, the misunderstood giant. People chase motivation like it's fuel, but motivation is a spark. It burns hot, then fades. Discipline? Discipline is the engine. It keeps running long after motivation is packed up and gone home. Discipline is the art of doing it, especially when you don't feel like it. It's waking up early because your goals don't care how tired you are. It's showing up to the gym when your body aches and your mind negotiates. It's writing the words, making the call, keeping the promise to no because it's easy, but because it's essential. Discipline is self-respect in motion. Every time you follow through, you're casting a vote for the identity you're becoming. You're telling yourself, I can be trusted. I am the kind of person who does the work. Not once, not when it's fun, but every single time. That builds something deeper than habits. It builds a backbone. Discipline is what separates the dabblers from the dominators. It's what transforms potential into performance. It's what turns a dreamer into a doer. And don't confuse discipline with rigidity. This isn't about being robotic. It's about being relentless. You can have grace for your humanity, but never excuses for your greatness. You fall, get back up with fire. You fail, extract the lesson and move with more precision. You feel weak, anchor yourself to your purpose, not your feelings. Because discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks, did you follow through? And those who do those, who consistently do become unstoppable. The seventh pillar is action. Because none of this means anything without execution. Mindset without action is daydreaming. Belief without action is fantasy. Vision without action is just a screensaver for the soul. Action is the oxygen of transformation. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be loud, but it must be consistent. The world is not changed by thinkers. It's changed by builders. By people who take the first step before they know the second. By people who move while others hesitate. By people who are willing to look foolish for a season to live powerful for a lifetime. Action cures fear. Action builds momentum. Action separates the someday crowd from the right now few. Don't wait until you're confident. Act and confidence will follow. Don't wait until the plan is flawless. Move, and clarity will sharpen. Don't wait for the approval. Give yourself permission to begin. Because life doesn't respond to intentions, it responds to movements. You want change? Then act like it. Not once. Not in bursts. Daily. Repeatedly. Relentlessly. Let your calendar reflect your calling. Let your actions preach louder than your words. Let your life be so aligned, so intentional, so disciplined, that success has no choice but to arrive. Because the person who acts with purpose becomes a force. And when you build these 7 pillars, when they are not just principles but practices, you become unshakable. And from that foundation, you don't just survive. You build. You don't just hustle. You elevate. You don't just exist. You transform. Then let us deepen the structure, carve the stone beneath the surface. Because truth doesn't live in repetition. It lives in revelation. Let us return to mindset not as a theory, but as a battlefield. Because mindset is not what you think when you're calm. It's what you default to when life grabs you by the throat, when the deal falls through, when the door closes, when the people you thought would ride with you vanish in the fog. What do you believe then? That is the real mindset, not curated quotes and highlight reels, but the brutal self-talk when you're bleeding and no one's applauding. And here's the truth. Your mind is not neutral. It is a garden or a graveyard. Every thought is a seed. Every emotion is water. Every word you speak to yourself is a storm or sunlight. So, train it. Train it to be your first responder, not your greatest enemy. When doubt knocks, let your trained mind answer with certainty. When fear rises, let your trained mind speak with resolve. When the old voice whispers, "Who do you think you are?" let your new voice roar, "I am the one who endures." Mindset is not softness. It's not a hug. It's warrior code. You don't meditate just to find peace. You meditate to sharpen your edge. You don't journal to be poetic. You journal to hunt truth and kill excuses. You don't visualize for dreams. You visualize to condition dominance. Your mind is your arena. Enter it daily. Train in it fiercely. And exit it prepared to face the world like a storm clothed in purpose. Now we deepen belief. Because belief isn't a warm feeling. Belief is evidence. Belief shows up in your posture, in your tone, in the way you walk into a room and don't look for permission. You bring it with you. It's not enough to try to believe. That's weak language. You build belief by stacking bricks of follow-through. You said you'd get up? Get up. You said you'd finish it? Finish it. You said this year would be different? Prove it. Because every time you follow through, belief becomes less of a concept and more of a character trait. You stop believing in yourself and start becoming someone unquestionable. And the world? The world doesn't respond to doubt. It responds to presence. Presence born of belief that has been earned, not through talking, but through firewalking. Now we forge clarity into steel. Clarity is not an answer, it's a blade. It cuts through the fluff. It separates what looks impressive from what moves the mission. You don't just gain clarity through thinking, you gain it through elimination. Eliminate what drains. Eliminate what distracts. Eliminate the maybe people, the sort of goals, the kind of matters conversations. Clarity emerges in the absence of clutter. It shows itself when you've stripped your life down to the essentials and looked your real desires in the face without apology, without pretending they're smaller, just to make others comfortable. And clarity hurts at first. It shows you what must go. But in its pain, it gives you power. The power to move with speed. The power to choose with finality. The power to live without needing to ask permission anymore. And in a world addicted to confusion, clarity is rebellion. Then stand tall, because now we walk into vision with eyes wide open, not for fantasy, but for fire. Vision is not some pretty picture on a board. It is not a caption under a beach photo. It is not one-day language whispered between sighs. Vision is prophecy backed by preparation. It is the bold, often lonely declaration that you will no longer shrink to fit the world around you. You will build the world within you until it spills into reality. Vision is a responsibility. Once seen, it must be honored. Once felt, it must be fed. Once spoken, it must be lived or it will haunt you. Because vision ignored becomes regret, and regret is vision's ghost showing you what could have been had you just started. True vision doesn't wait for support. It doesn't beg for permission. It doesn't need a cheering squad. It speaks, and then it moves. Even when the path is invisible. Even when the map is incomplete. Even when your voice shakes and your hands tremble. Vision is the call that doesn't stop ringing until you answer it. And when you do, your world will rearrange. People will fall away. Patterns will be disrupted. Your identity will undergo surgery. Because vision doesn't just add, vision transforms. And you must become the person worthy of the picture you see. Now we burn deeper into purpose. Because purpose is not an Instagram bio. It is not a slogan or a sloganized life. It is the anchor in the storm, the vow made in the dark. It is the silent agreement between you and your Creator. I will not waste what you placed in me. Purpose often begins as pain. The thing that broke you, it was showing you what you were born to fix. The thing that crushed you, it was carving out empathy. The thing you survived, it was your license to lead. So don't bury your pain, study it, mine it, ask it what it was trying to prepare you for. Because your greatest contribution to the world won't come from the roles you play. It will come from the wounds you've healed. Purpose doesn't always shout it, often whispers. And in those whispers, you'll hear truth. Speak, even when your voice shakes. Build, even when your hands tremble. Move, even when the world doubts. Because purpose isn't for applause, it's for impact. When your life is laced with purpose, everything shifts. Rest becomes recovery. Work becomes worship. Sacrifice becomes sacred. And suddenly, you're no longer chasing significance. You're embodying it. Then, breathe deep, because now we grip the sixth pillar, the iron frame that holds your entire structure together, discipline. But this time, let's call it what it truly is, not a rule, but a ritual. Discipline is not punishment. It is devotion. Devotion to your future self. Devotion to your higher standard. Devotion to the version of you that already lives inside, waiting to be proven real. Discipline is not the grind, it's the grace of alignment. It's saying, I refuse to betray who I said I'd become. It's not about hustle, it's about honor. You honor your body when you train, even when your muscles ache. You honor your vision when you sit down and build, even when your mind screams for distraction. You honor your word when you show up again, again, and again, even when no one else notices. Because discipline is the notice. Discipline is the flex. Discipline is the quiet strength that makes noise with results. And when others fold at the first sign of fatigue, you breathe through the fire. Not because you love the pain, but because you love who the pain is shaping. Discipline is a spiritual rhythm, a sacred beat, a daily choosing of purpose over preference, focus over feeling, progress over perfection. It is not sexy, it is not flashy, but it is unbreakable. And now, we sharpen the final pillar until it cuts through all resistance, action. But not random action, not busy work dressed up as progress. This is aligned action, directed, chosen, brutal in its simplicity. This is the kind of action that builds character while building results. The kind that does not need motivation because it is fueled by mission. The kind that doesn't wait for clarity, it creates clarity by doing. Action is not about speed. It's about decisiveness. You move, you learn, you refine. You adjust mid-stride, but you never freeze. Because waiting kills dreams faster than failure ever will. And here's the power you've been missing. Every single time you act, you retrain your identity. Every call made, every workout completed, every promise kept. It all reinforces this truth. I am becoming the person who does what must be done. That repetition rewires you. You stop doubting. You stop delaying. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start declaring, what if I don't stop? And when your life becomes a symphony of disciplined action aligned with unshakable vision, you don't need to chase results. Results chase you. Then now we rise into the summit, into the moment where everything behind you hardens into a foundation, and everything ahead of you begins to burn with divine demand. This is not just a conclusion, this is a coronation. Because if you've walked with me through every pillar, you are no longer who you were when this began. You are not simply aware, you are awakened. You are not curious, you are called. called to build a life that doesn't crumble under pressure, called to step into a version of yourself that can no longer be denied, called to become so aligned, so intentional, so dangerous to mediocrity that every room you enter feels it. You now know mindset is your battlefield. Belief is your blueprint. Clarity is your compass. Vision is your fire. Purpose is your anchor. Discipline is your engine. Action is your crown. And together, they don't just build success. They build you, the real you, the full you, the you who doesn't ask for time but takes it back, the you who doesn't wish for change but embodies it, the you who no longer watches life from the sidelines but writes it with fire. So let this be your vow. No more delay. No more lukewarm commitments. No more half-lived days. You were not born for hesitation. You were not made for smallness. You were not designed to blend in with a world that has forgotten how to burn. You were born to build, to become, to blaze. And when people ask years from now, how did you do it? You'll smile with that quiet, undeniable knowing and say, I built myself, brick by brick, pillar by pillar, moment by moment, until I became unshakable. And the world, it never saw you coming, but it will never forget you now. Your words are building something. Every time you speak, you are constructing a bridge or a barrier. You're either connecting or confusing. You're either making someone feel seen or making them feel small. And the tragedy? Most people don't even know when their words are failing them. They think communication is about talking, about filling the silence, about saying enough to sound smart, safe, professional, powerful. But communication, true communication, is about transmission. Can your thoughts become understanding? Can your ideas become transformation? Can your presence become clarity without having to raise your voice? Because here's the brutal truth. If people don't understand you, they can't trust you. If they don't feel heard by you, they won't follow you. And if they don't feel safe in your words, they will shut down even when you're right. So how do you know if your communication is poor? Sign 1. You talk more than you listen. Because the loudest person in the room isn't the leader. The listener is. Real communicators aren't addicted to being heard. They're obsessed with understanding. They don't interrupt. They don't hijack conversations with their own story. They don't just wait for their turn to speak. They study the person in front of them. They ask better questions. They observe energy. They make people feel safe enough to open up, not perform. If your communication always brings it back to you, you're not connecting, you're competing. And that's the silent killer of influence. People don't want a spotlight stealer. They want a space holder. And when you become the person who truly listens, who remembers, who pays attention to the unsaid, your words double in power. Because people will finally believe, this one doesn't just hear me. They see me. Then let's go deeper. Because the second sign you are a poor communicator is this. You assume more than you ask. Assumption is the language of ego. It says, I already know what you mean. I already know how you feel. I already know what needs to happen. But assumption kills connection. It builds walls where there should be windows. It turns conversations into collisions. Good communicators don't just speak, they inquire. They clarify. They dig. They humble themselves enough to say, help me understand. Can you walk me through what you're really feeling? Before I respond, let me make sure I'm clear. Because understanding isn't about agreeing. It's about respecting the reality the other person lives in. Poor communication is when you react before you receive. When you finish someone's sentence before they've found their courage. When you slap your solution on their struggle like a Band-Aid on a broken bone. But the best communicators move slow. They resist the urge to fix. They resist the urge to fill silence. They resist the urge to be the hero of the conversation. Because the goal isn't to be right. The goal is to be effective. And effectiveness begins when you stop assuming you already understand and start asking like it matters. You want real connection? Drop the ego. Drop the guessing. Get curious again. Because the moment you think you already know it all, your communication has already started to die. Then stay with me, because the third sign you are a poor communicator is this. You prioritize clarity for yourself, but confusion for others. You think they get it because you get it. You assume your passion, your speed, your tone are translating, but in reality, they're not connecting. They're overwhelming. They're blurring the message. Communication isn't just about what you say. It's about what's received. It's not about how confident you sounded. It's about how clear they walked away. Poor communicators talk in clouds. They use big words to mask small understanding. They throw out jargon to feel important. They over-explain, overcomplicate, and then wonder why no one moves. But great communicators, they speak with precision. They strip away the fluff. They remove the ego. They make the message impossible to miss, because they know if your words require a decoder, you're not powerful, you're noisy. Clarity is kindness. Clarity is leadership. Clarity is the difference between someone following you and someone faking agreement just to end the conversation. You want to lead? Make it simple. Make it sharp. Make it impossible to misunderstand. Because when people understand you, they trust you. When they trust you, they move. And when they move, everything changes. So speak not to impress. Speak to empower. If your words don't create motion, they were never communication. They were just decoration. Then lean in, because the fourth sign you are a poor communicator is this. You speak from reaction, not intention. You let the moment drive your mouth. You let frustration write your tone. You let pride sharpen your words. And in doing so, you burn bridges you were meant to build. Poor communication often sounds strong, but it's reckless. It's reactive. It's undisciplined emotion packaged as truth. But truth without timing is still a weapon. Real communicators know how to pause. They don't just ask, what do I want to say? They ask, what outcome do I want to create? They know that words are not just noise. They are tools. And every tool, if used poorly, can become a weapon. You can speak facts and still cause damage. You can be right and still destroy trust. You can win the argument and lose the relationship. A good communicator doesn't react. They respond with awareness, with purpose, with intention. They know how to breathe through the heat. They know how to wait for the right moment. They know when to speak and when silence is louder. Because emotional maturity shows in your mouth, not in what you say when you feel good, but in what you don't say when you're triggered. So check your heart before you speak. Ask yourself, is this for healing or for winning? Is this to build or to break? Is this my pride speaking or my purpose? Because one wrong sentence can cost you respect. One careless word can cost you years of trust. One reaction can undo 1,000 moments of good leadership. And if you don't master your mouth will master your future. Then brace yourself. Because the fifth sign you are a poor communicator is this. You avoid hard conversations and call it keeping the peace. But peace without truth is just postponed conflict. And silence isn't always kindness. Sometimes it's cowardice in disguise. Poor communicators would rather be liked than be clear. They'd rather let dysfunction slide than risk discomfort. They convince themselves, I don't want to stir the pot. But what they're really saying is, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to be misunderstood. I don't want to face resistance. But here's the truth. Avoided conversations become accumulated resentment. And that resentment, it leaks. It shows up in passive tones, in sharp responses, in energy shifts that say everything your lips won't. You think you're hiding it. You're not. You're transmitting it. Powerful communication requires courage. The courage to enter the tension, to say what needs to be said with grace, not with guilt, with conviction, not with cruelty. Great communicators don't avoid hard talks. They prepare for them. They lead them. They bring clarity, compassion, and calm into places where others bring avoidance. Because if you want alignment in your relationships, your team, your mission, you must be willing to speak truth, even when your voice shakes. No more sugarcoating. No more hoping they figure it out. No more waiting for the right time that never comes. Say it. Say it clean. Say it with love, but say it all. Because silence isn't strength. Honest dialogue is. And if you want to build anything that lasts, you must stop protecting people's comfort at the cost of your clarity. Then stand firm, because the sixth sign you are a poor communicator is this. You don't match your words with your energy. You say the right things, but they don't land because your tone doesn't carry conviction. Your body doesn't carry belief. Your presence doesn't carry truth. And people may not always hear what you say, but they always feel what you mean. Poor communicators think words alone are enough. They forget that the delivery is the message. If your tone is hollow, your words sound rehearsed. If your posture is closed, your openness means nothing. If your face is flat, your encouragement falls to the floor. You can't fake alignment. People know when your words are out of sync with your soul. Great communication isn't just about the right script. It's about embodiment. It's about being congruent. When you say, I care, they feel it. When you say, I'm proud of you, they believe it. When you say, we're going to make it, it shifts the atmosphere because your presence is carrying weight. Your voice is anchored. Your energy is clean. But when your message and your essence are disconnected, people stop trusting your leadership. They may smile. They may nod. But deep down, they pull back. And over time, they stop listening altogether. Because communication isn't just what you speak. It's the alignment between your values, your voice, and your vibration. You want to be heard? Then speak with your whole being. Speak with congruence. Speak with depth. Speak with energy that tells the truth before the words ever reach their ears. Because when you do, people don't just hear you. They feel you. They remember you. They move with you. And that's real communication. That's real leadership. That's real power. Then let's complete this with fire, because the seventh and final sign you are a poor communicator is this. You communicate to protect your image, not to create impact. You speak to impress, to maintain control, to appear polished, professional, unshakable. But in that performance, you've forgotten the point. Communication is not about perfection. It's about connection. Poor communicators filter everything through ego. They avoid vulnerability because it feels like weakness. They rehearse authenticity, but never live it. They hide behind buzzwords, polished phrasing, and safe conversations. And the result? No one gets in. No one relates. No one remembers. Because people don't connect to your mask. They connect to your mess, your honesty, your humanity, your willingness to drop the performance and just be real. The best communicators are not the ones with flawless delivery. They're the ones with nothing to hide. They say, I was wrong. I don't know. I've been there too. I'm still learning. And in those words, trust is born. Walls come down. People breathe again. And the space becomes safe, real, alive. Because when you stop trying to be impressive, you start becoming impactful. When you stop trying to sound smart, you start sounding true. And when you stop speaking for applause, you start speaking for transformation. That's the power of pure communication. That's what separates a speaker from a leader. You're not here to protect an image. You're here to ignite something in people that they forgot was even there. And that doesn't come from perfect grammar or polished pauses. It comes from truth. It comes from alignment. It comes from you fully present, fully real, fully committed to clarity over comfort. Because once your words stop being about you, they start changing everything around you.